Welcome back to our channels, Warriors. We are still growing. If you haven't had that robalonche, smash that subscribe button. Go ahead and have her smash it right now. Also, if you haven't signed up for that Patreon, make sure you hit that link in the description below. Over there, I'm posting things that is not safe for YouTube, right? You do not want to be missing out. This episode right here, man, is the part 2 to communication. I was going to go off and tell a bunch of Iraq war stories, but I got to follow the sequence, right? Communication. I get on here and I communicate daily with you guys, right? I was going to say it's one way, but no, you guys tap in the chats, and I appreciate that, right? It motivates me. I love hearing from you guys, so that in itself is communication. The first video was based on my young days as an officer at Centinela State Prison, right? During my 16-year career in the California Department of Corrections, my communications skills went from 0 to expert, pro, right? I'm going to tell you, I ended up going to Donovan in 2015. I promoted a sergeant. I told you guys on the first video that when you promote, the inmates, well, from what I noticed, treat you different, right? In the housing units, they'd be disrespecting you. Not always, but you hear what I'm saying. And then the more rank you get, the more they kind of see, like, okay, I could get some leverage here. This person can help me out on a bed move. Hey, Sarge, can I get a bed move? Did you ask your cops in the building? Yeah, they told me to holler at you. That's when I got to Donovan, right? Here's a crazy story when I got to Donovan as a brand new sergeant that blew my mind. An inmate came to the program door and the sergeant's office and knocked on the door. And he asked me for a bed move. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because that's something that an officer can handle in-house, right? That's something an officer should be handling in-house, in the pad, in the housing unit. And I'm like, hey, man, what are you doing here, right, initially? Oh, he told me to ask you for a bed move. And I'm like, who told you to ask me for a bed move? The officers. I'm like, wait a minute. I get on the phone, right? The institutions, the institutions have their own phone lines, which is funny, and their own extensions. The ones that don't be dialing out, right? If you have a family emergency, say you lose a loved one, somebody ends up in the hospital, you're a correctional officer in the building, then you will have to go to the sergeant's office or the lieutenant's office. Those phones dial outside of the institution. The little phones that the officers have inside the podiums don't dial out. So I get on there. I'm like, hey, dude, did you let this inmate out to ask me for a bed move? I'm like, he's like, yeah, Sergeant. I'm like, hang up the phone, right? I get on the radio and I put him on blast. I'm like, hey, housing unit 8, be advised that inmate that you let out of your building, right, when it was not his yard time to ask me for a bed move is back en route to your own building. And not that I was a dick, right? It's just I was caught off guard going from Centinela to RJD. You guys know this, right? I'm just don't want to beat a dead horse. Here we go. Right? And one thing I'm going to touch on eventually is supervisory skills, right? As a sergeant, the sergeant role is not to be in the housing unit running the officer's show, right? Not micromanaging, not overstepping. Are there some people that have different styles and weird stuff? Yeah, of course. But I'll show you, right? And I was talking to a friend about this. I'm going to show you guys the way, right? Of course. That's what a leader does, is they go. I'm going to show you guys, right? But eventually I'm like, all right, guys, you guys got this. I'm going to head back to my office, drink some coffee, and watch some Amazon, right? Some Amazon Prime. You guys need me, break the glass. I used to say that, break the glass. So when it was time for me to communicate with inmates as a supervisor, sergeant, and lieutenant, I had already been sober, okay? that helped with my communication skills. I wasn't doing like shady stuff or crazy stuff, like out on the streets like I used to, right? I was running amok, so I didn't really feel grimy. Didn't have nothing to hide. I was an open book. I was transparent. And by then, the staff members knew that I didn't drink. Sometimes they would ask me to go out to a bar and drink, and I'm like, no, I don't drink. That time I had like probably 8 years of sobriety. I don't remember. 2010, 2015, 5 years of sobriety, 6 years. But then it became well known, hey, this dude doesn't drink at all. So when I came into the pictures of numerous incidents, or prior to an incident, there would be an inmate with an issue. An inmate with the issue, he would be in a holding cell, looks like a phone booth, a cage. It's a cage the size of a phone booth, and he doesn't want to leave, right? He doesn't want to go to ADSEG, even though he just got put in there for battering a peace officer. He's in handcuffs. Well, now he's slipped the handcuffs, so there's supposed to be handcuffs in the back. This dude I'm telling you, RJD was wild. Every time, they would slip the handcuffs underneath their feet and just start banging and breaking the plexiglass, because there's plexiglass on around the steel cage, the metal cage. Breaking the pieces of plexiglass, go flying off, hitting somebody in the face. Now you got another battery on a peace officer and somebody with glass in their eye. Nothing was normal at RJD. Everything just continued. Taking a shit in the holding cell, getting it and throwing it at you, just gassing you. I got a hilarious story. Okay. Before I move on to, okay, I can't miss this one. I know you guys like these funny stories. Okay, there's a lot of transgenders at RJD. You guys know this, right? I got there, I told when I was shot out on the inside because I didn't have the proper communication skills. There's a lot of mentally ill inmates. There's a lot that are faking it, and then there's a lot that are out there. Turned up, broke the knob, right? Really, really mentally ill. Like whatever diagnosis you can name, they got them, right? My buddy's a lieutenant. This was in CTC, the Correctional Treatment Center. It's the hospital in the prison. In the front of the front door is the TTA. So think of an emergency room. An emergency room, you got little offices or little examination rooms right there. That's when if they get stabbed up, boom, 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 they get taken right there. In the back is where you have long-term ill inmates. You can have people with like dying of cancer, really, really like old, fucking like not obese, like 800-pound dudes. You can have TB infected inmates. So like, hey, it's long term back there. Well, there was an inmate, this guy was wild, or girl, right? This individual, transgender inmate was wild. Oh my, staff assaults, at the hospital. When administration told the officers don't be using force out at the hospital. Okay, I gotta tell you guys something about the use of force policy. The use of force policy does not say you will never use of force. The use of force policy doesn't state you will use zero force. The use of force policy clearly states minimal reliance, right? Minimal reliance to overcome resistance, effect custody, subdue an attacker, and gain compliance with lawful order. That's the fucking policy. But you had managers telling the staff, don't use force, don't use force, don't use force. At all. And that's what got a lot of that. You guys want to know how the officers were literally getting slapped, open palm, boom, 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 because they were not using force. And that's when I would tell them, you guys like getting slapped around? No, Sergeant. No, Lieutenant. All right. And I would tell them like this. You're lucky they are just fucking slapping you around. Because at another place, they should be stabbing you. They should be fucking stabbing you. But they feel sorry for you guys. And I could, the look of defeat on their fucking face, right? And that was the truth. And that was Charlie Art, RJD, SNY, EOP. So, back to the TTA. That transgender inmate was in the holding cell refusing to come out. Had probably already slipped the cuffs, broken the plexiglass. My buddy that's a lieutenant was about to do a cell extraction. A legitimate cell extraction, going through the policy where, hey, everybody gets suited up, helmet, riot gear, the white PPE suit to make sure like you don't get poop or blood, bloodborne pathogens on you. And of course the body-worn cameras. This was hilarious, right? The body-worn cameras had already came on board. And regardless, there were, back in the old days school, there used to be a old school camcorder, right? During a cell extraction, make sure there's no funny business, making sure we're not giving them a couple extras. So they're in the back where I just told you the long-term sick inmates are, and they're suited, right? They're suited. They got to go in there. They got to extract this inmate, and they got to transport him to ADSEG, the administrative segregation, the whole. That's what a cell extraction is. I watched the video. I talked to that lieutenant, and everybody was in shock, man. Disgusted, appalled, in shock. When they crack the double doors, right? There's double doors to the back. When they open it, I shit you not, what they heard was a porno movie playing in the front of the TTA area. Just moaning, groaning, huffing and puffing and screaming and just, listen to what I just told you. Listen to the sounds, right? I'm not going to tell nobody to go Google anything they're not supposed to be Googling, especially if you're at work, you're going to get fired. The sounds were somebody making sweet, violent love to themselves, right? And you can see my buddy's reaction. He's like, the fuck, right? Because the mentality of a cop to go do a cell extraction, you're pumped. Here we go. You're pumped, right? You're about to face some violence. 9.5, well, fucking 10 out of 10 times you're about to face some violence, right? Because the inmate has clearly made it a point they ain't coming out. You have to go in there with force and get it, right? Get them. So they're fucking like hyped up and in the zone. They're hearing these sounds, these moans, right? As soon as they turn the corner, right, to go crack that cage, there's a padlock on there. This inmate had his pants all the way down to his ankles, bent over at the waist, had some type of, oh my God. I don't know what he made. He made something, right? Like out of rubber and plastic, and was jamming it inside of himself violently. Oh, man. No. You had nurses, old lady nurses, young female nurses. You had doctors. You had staff members just appalled. Like they even when I'm watching it, I didn't know whether to laugh, throw up, fucking kick the dog, right? I just didn't want to be there anymore, right? It's like, that's what was happening. So you hear my buddy out there like, hey, stop. Hey, stop. The inmate finished. The inmate finished what he was doing. Oh, fucking. This video was not going to go this way. This video was not going to go this way at all. Oh, I'm getting sick just thinking about it. The inmate fucking finished, right? And everybody was like, I don't want to go in there, right? There's like poop everywhere. It's just, I know this was a disgusting video. It wasn't supposed to be at all. Oh, golly gee. Golly gee, right? But whew, as much as I want to end it there, I gotta bring it back, man. I can't leave you guys. I hope you didn't have your breakfast yet. But it's the kind of stuff we were dealing with, man. So now that you painted the picture of the stuff we were dealing with at RJD, you would have a lot of that. Okay, not a lot of that. That was the first and hopefully the last time you ever seen that particular action. But a lot of violent individuals refusing to come out of somewhere. And that's when the communication skill, and something about Donovan, which is unconventional, right? Donovan is an unconventional prison. This is the first time I'm inventing this word, and this is what I've gathered, right, from my time in the military and how things operate. Centinela State Prison was very organized, structured. If you're a lieutenant on the yard, you stay on that yard. If you're a sergeant on that yard, you stay on that yard. You handle your own business. RJD is so wild, off the hook, that you literally need the help of your partners, your friends, your peers to go from one yard to another. At least I would, a lot of the time, every time. And the other ones would too, right? We knew this. Because if we couldn't get to an inmate verbally, hey man, come out of the cage. We can always call a friend to come and break them down. Hey man, come out of the cage, right? And after like 3 or 4 people talking to this person, they're like, I better come out of the cage, right? Or eventually they're going to develop a rapport with somebody that they can trust, somebody that they can break it down to, right? Break it down and come out willingly. Therefore, we don't have to use force, right? We're not all about smashing inmates. As a matter of fact, we would rather not, especially in these days. I'm going to do a video on the old days, but not that I was in the old days because I started in 2006, but you get my drift. So we ain't trying to do nothing like that. And really, ain't nobody, right? Because then you get in trouble, you go under investigation, you get hurt. I know a lot of people wishing they get hurt right now, so they go out on workman's comp, like Edgar Garcia, my homito, who's still out on workman's comp. I can't believe it. Come back. Like a man. Like a man, G. But, that's what that would look like. One time, perfect fucking story. Lining it up. Your boy's hamster is on steroids. There was an inmate in CTC in the back, where I told you guys the back. Now, he wasn't... they also go back there for mental health crisis bed. Oh, no. Hector, what's mental health crisis bed? Just imagine if you're on the street smoking crack cocaine and you lose your fucking mind, start howling at the moon. The cops are going to come get you and put you on a whatever it is, 72-hour hold in a 5150. That's a mental health crisis bed. Centinela doesn't have mental health crisis bed. Calipat doesn't have mental health crisis bed. You don't want to be at a prison that does be having mental health crisis bed. So you got an inmate, because this is what that looks like. You'll have an inmate assault the staff. Boom. Hit him. Knock out the cop. Then we go over there, put him in handcuffs, right? And then he says, I'm suicidal. With a smug fucking look on their face. I'm telling you, RJD was disgusting. No honor, no respect. I'm suicidal. Thinking that they're going to get out of the trouble, the punishment. A lot of the times they were. That's why they kept continuing this pattern. So imagine that. They're just gaming the fucking system. Imagine that. Right? So there was this inmate in the back. This dude was kind of like stocky black dude in shape. Not stocky, but in shape, right? Like cortado, G. Right? And I'm always sizing up people in prison. People are always sizing up us, right? It's like, is this going to suck, right? Is this going to be a hard fight, or what's this going to be like? So you be fighting 6'4", 265-pound individuals. 6'5", giants, right? This guy wasn't a giant, he was just cortado, G. Fuck, man. This dude broke the sprinkler system inside of the cell. You had black shit water or whatever, sewage, rusted ass pipes, water flooding out the cell in the back. Somehow, some way, this dude got a piece of metal. I don't know if he got the metal that was covering the sprinkler system. He had a piece of metal. I don't know if he broke some type of bed, broke something. This dude had looked like a crowbar type length and whatnot. Oh, this dude was with it, right? He had numerous staff assaults, known for assaulting staff. This dude was fucking with it. You had all the staff members back there. You had a shitload of officers, and you had the watch commander, right? At the time, shout out to him. That dude is running the ATM. Good, too, good. My shout out to you, my boy. So, he's there, and he could remember this. And I was on Delta Yard drinking my coffee. Oh, I'm going to say this is why I went. So, I was on Delta Yard third watch, right? I either got held over or... Yeah, held over. I never fucking volunteered for overtime, of course. I got held over to first watch, right? I got forced to, for my shift, to do another 8, a total of 16. He was the watch commander. They are in charge of CTC. So I hear this commotion going on. Call the fire captain. We have a code 1 in CTC. Inmate broke out the sprinkler system. I'm just hearing this racket on the radio, right? Turning down my radio. I'm trying to shop on Amazon. And then it dawns on me, fuck. I gotta work there tonight, right? I'm about to inherit this. I don't want to say I'm a selfish son of a bitch, but like it's strategy, right? I gotta inherit. Yeah. I want to make my next shift smooth, right? I ain't trying to go into a fucking train wreck. That happens so many times, and I'm gonna get a leg up on this motherfucker, right? I'm gonna quell this shit. So I come into the CTC. Right through the back door. The 4-yard, Delta Yard. There's a back door right there. They open it. There's CTC. There's the cell. He was at the cell right by the door, right? There's water. Matter of fact, there's water coming outside the building from the flooded, broken sprinkler. That dude was ready. That dude was about to fuck up every cop in there. So I look at the dude. I remember his last name, I think. And I'm like, I think his last name was like Wilson or something. Hey, Wilson. Dude looks at me. I think he was boarded up too. Dude boarded up his window cell, whatever. Wilson. Dude fucking peeks, right? Hey, dude. Let me holler at you. Right? You want to hear about communication skills? This is exactly what it looked like. Hey, dude, let me holler at you. Hey, who is that right there? Hey, it's Lieutenant so-and-so. Fucking like sees me, takes it down. Hey, man, what's going on? Mind you, I had already been to hostage negotiation school, too, so I'm just fucking on fire with this communication, right? Again, hey, let me holler at you. So now I could kind of see he's kind of like working with me here. Oh, no, I don't want to come out. They beat my ass. He ended up to tell me eventually a whole entire story, right? So I'm like, hey, man, what I'm going to need from you, dude? Well, first of all, I tell him like this. Hey, have I ever talked to you before? And he's like, no. I said, okay, I'm talking to you. Right? This is our first interaction. This is how this is going to go. You understand me? He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah. Okay. I'm going to need you to give me that piece of metal, dude. And he kind of looked at me. He's like, you can have it. In my head, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, right? Open the food port, get the piece of metal. We take it out. I'm like, well, that's good. Metal's gone. But he's still in there. He has to come out now. Luckily, an officer, because I was caught up I was still kind of overwhelmed that he gave me the piece of metal, right? Like, fuck. Hell yeah. So, the officer's like, hey, ask him if he'll cuff up. The dude wasn't cuffed up. I don't know what the fuck. It was a weird situation. So as soon as he told me that, I'm like, hey, Wilson, I'm going to need you to cuff up, dude. I said, look, I'm going to hear you out, right? I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to holler at you. But in order for me to do that, I need to put you in handcuffs and I need to escort you to this room over here. They had little conference rooms. I said, again, man, this is the fucking first time I'm talking to you. This is me giving you my word. We're going to talk. Fucking puts his hands behind his fucking back. Boom. Put him in cuffs. Crack the door. All the fucking staff are looking at me like I'm the EOP whisperer, right? Go put him in the holding cell. And I kept my word. 99.9% of the time, I kept my word unless I got fucking busy. Something happened. But even then, you're a young officer. You keep your fucking word. That's all you got in prison for the most part. We sat there, we chopped it up. He was telling me about some fucked up shit that had transpired, and I kind of had understood what he was saying. And I'm like, I could see that, right? Like, Donovan was wild. There was a lot of bullshit there. And I'm like, yeah, that's fucked up. I agree that that's fucked up, right? Like, but hey, man, you can't be fucking, like, doing all this shit. Because he would always do this kind of stuff. I'm like, hey, like, that's not helping your case, man. That's not helping your fucking case. He was hell-bent. He was hell-bent on just fucking shit up everywhere he went to prove a point, to get his get back, and send a message. And I'm like, hey, dude, think about it, man. I was like, where are you from on the streets? He's like, I think the dude told me, like, originally from Chicago or really from something like that, and came back. I'm like, hey, man, what you're doing is you're adding more time to your sentence. You're just fucking piling this shit up, man. And for what? Like, yeah, I know that fucking transpired or whatever you're telling me, but and I don't agree. I said, I don't agree with that. That ain't a fucking man. I said, I don't fucking agree with that, right? I told you. I had gathered enough sense to know, they say, Hector, never believe an inmate, right? But, like, I'm over here working my verbal judo, and I had gathered enough sense to what he was saying and what I had known may have possibly happened, right? So I'm like, the fuck? So yeah, I'm not cool with that shit, man. That's like bitch shit. So we're talking, right? Goes to fucking AdSig, right? I'm exhausted just talking about this, man. And that's the thing about verbal judo. And me and my partners could agree that doing that is more mentally exhausting than fighting an inmate. For sure. The fight is the fight, your adrenaline, blah, blah, blah. But draining is to, like, mentally de-escalate something. Yeah. You feel beat when you go home, man. Exhausted. So, moving forward, every time I interacted with an inmate like that, in situations like that, and I held my end of the bargain by speaking to them and just hearing them out. I was a lieutenant, man. What's it to me to hear a dude out, right? It's my job, I would say. And that's where I think we don't have all the time in the world, right, to be hearing people out. But, man, sometimes there's legitimate issues, right? Sometimes there's legitimate issues. And that's going to be the message for today, is communication. People like to be heard. Your wife, your girlfriend and your wife, right? Everybody, your friends, man, they love to be heard. If you would just give them the opportunity to speak and listen, keep pushing forward.